person that I'm about to introduce is many things. He's a student, an athlete, a chef, a lacrosse goalie, a chauffeur, a professional Brawl Stars player, a professor, a top score holder in Bosnian, and even a former middle school proctor. I have many great memories of Nazar, like when he showed everyone his Cuban Missile Crisis technique at bowling in the main mall, when he tried to ride a goat in Rangeley over spring break, or when he broke all my darts in the house and blamed it on Sinan. This Belarusian beauty enjoys mayonnaise, pull-ups, Rammstein, and listening to his celebrity crush and also spiritual mentor, Flula.
Nazar is a person who made my time in school a lot easier this year. He helped me to transition to a new school, new people, and a completely new culture. I can't be more thankful for the experiences and memories we had together, such as going to the sauna, him trying to teach me lacrosse, and giving me important advice. I admire his attitude in sports. He always performs to the best and stays positive, even though it is hard sometimes. His story about avoiding military service in Belarus, leaving the country before turning 18, is hard, and obviously leaving family, members, and friends behind wasn't easy at all. But even after those events, he never gave up and worked very hard, and got accepted to prestigious universities. And here we are today at his last word at Hebron, and let's welcome Nazar Vialichka.
Almost made me cry. Good morning. When my father was a college senior and did his last word, he messed up big time. From what he told me and from what I was allowed to tell you, it was pretty embarrassing, and I promised him to do a better job. Without going into details, I'll just say that the fact that I'm not freestyling it already makes it better than his. Though, I'll admit, writing a last word was a real struggle, especially with only a week left. It was stressful, and I cycled through every stage of grief before putting pen to paper. First, it was denial. I swore the schedule had given me at least a few more months the last time I checked. Maybe they messed up, maybe the schedule was wrong, but lying to myself couldn't change the outcome, and I knew that. Then, I was furious, because no one cared to remind me about the deadline, which was definitely my fault, but I just like blaming others. It made me feel better at least. After that, I nearly gave up and almost considered going out and improvising, following my father's footsteps, so to say, or just keeping it entirely. But that's when bargaining came in. I begged Dr. Oakes and Miss Foreman for an extension. When that failed, I even tried to bribe other seniors to take my slot. They missed out on easy $20, which is their loss. And then, late enough, there was acceptance, and I began to write. I grew up in Belarus, a country with many controversial aspects and even more controversial reputation. Yet, it was my home, and I dearly loved it. There, I was raised, sent to kindergarten, school, and eventually graduated. Yep, I already have a high school diploma. In other words, my whole life was on that tiny piece of land, and living so long in one place, you really begin to hate even the slightest changes in life. And soon enough, changes came knocking on my door, literally. One sunny day, I had officers knocking on my door and giving me mandatory army draft documents. That's when problems began. If you want to make God laugh, tell him about your plans. This quote perfectly describes my situation at the time. You see, I was close to turning 18, which meant I would have to go to the army and serve in the name of my glorious fatherland for the whole eternity, blah, blah, blah. Warfare isn't really my thing, and the biggest accomplishment I have in the military is playing 100 hours in World of Tanks. And I wasn't a big patriot, so eventually I decided to leave my country. The Gulag wasn't the best alternative anyways. From that point, everything felt like one big lucid dream. First, there was a search for schools, then applications, then tons of interviews, and bam! Suddenly, I had to pick one. I chose Hebron because it had the best logo. That was it. No research, no nothing. A month later, I found myself in an unknown place. No goals, no plans, no one I knew, so I just went with the flow. These 3 years at Hebron went by incredibly fast, yet, in the process, they seemed insufferably long. There were, however, lots of good memories. Friends I made, teachers who changed my perspective on study and made me actually enjoy school. All sorts of sports and hobbies I picked up. All this will stay with me even after I graduate, even if only as memories in my forgetful hand. Looking back at all that, it feels like I'm starting to appreciate it only now. My parents always told me I need to live in the moment, but I simply can't do that without knowing what comes next. Even now, I'm still clueless of what I'm going to do after I graduate. To be honest, I don't even know where I'm going to end up this summer. Not talking about long-term plans, but such is life, unpredictable and chaotic. I wish I could say that I learned to enjoy it, but really I didn't, and I doubt that I ever will. Apparently, anything goes as planned. Barely anything goes as planned, but I guess if it was otherwise, life would really be boring. I mean, just a few years ago, I couldn't even imagine that I would end up graduating for the second time in the USA, in a state that I never even heard of before arriving here. So, I guess the chaotic nature of life has its own charm after all. And that's about it for now. I just want to thank all my friends that were with me, no matter if we only met this year, or if you were with me all along. Also, huge thanks to my friends back home for always being in touch and reminding me who betrayed the fatherland, while at the same time being just as lost as I am, trying to figure out the next steps together. And, of course, my parents. I know you have great expectations of me, and I promise you, I'll fulfill them. Can't say when though, but that's not important. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I assure you it will not go to waste. Now, most of the people end their last words with some kind of advice, but I don't consider myself overly enlightened. All I can say is that it's fine to be lost, to not know where to go or what to do. It's alright to ponder over it sometimes. And sometimes all it takes is to just throw a dice, spin a wheel, or flip a coin, and let your fate do the rest. The worst thing you can possibly do is stay in one place and wait for changes. They will come, for sure, but when they do, it may already be too late. Thank you.